Airbnb properties like this one here will soon see regulations in Windsor, but some operators are left wondering what it will mean for their businesses. Chrysler workers vote to ratify a new contract with management. We're learning more details of what exactly is inside that deal. Bit of a gloomy Monday here in Windsor. Some rain this morning, single-digit temperatures throughout the day, and more rain tonight. Colette Kennedy with all the details in her forecast. I'm Chris Ensing. Thanks for watching. Regulations are coming for short-term rentals in Windsor. Council made the call today with a unanimous decision. The CBC's Katerina Georgieva joins us now live. Katerina, Council spent a while debating this today, but what exactly do these regulations mean?
Right, so a number of them are coming down the pike in the coming months, and administration has been asked to come back to council with a draft bylaw outlining these regulations. What we know is that it's going to be modeled after what the municipality of Vaughan is already doing. So let's break down some of these key points that are being considered for Windsor. So short-term rental operators and Airbnb operators would need annual licenses to operate. Police checks would be required by operators as well. They would also need liability insurance policy. They will have to allow inspections. And finally, this one was a big priority during today's discussions. Owners must provide proof that the rental is their primary residence. So the reason for that is to avoid things which I heard referred to today as ghost hotels. So that would be where a house is being used for short-term rentals, but the landlord or the operator is nowhere nearby. Another thing that was discussed today was a possible cap on the number of days that a guest can stay if it is a house that is considered a short-term rental property, which most municipalities define as less than 30 days. So here are what two Airbnb operators are saying about this. They understand the need for framework, but they do have some questions.
The city has brought up today about a 28 or 30-day cap on staying in a place like this, okay? But there needs to be clear discussion about that with council members so that everybody can understand. A person should be allowed to stay longer, but it is the operator's choice and decision if he or she will accept longer than 28 days. On my listing, I accept it. But I do hope that the councillors take the time to maybe experience an Airbnb or visit one so that they can understand our needs and what we're trying to achieve.
So I kind of figured that today's conversation would go this way only because there was no draft bylaw. Because I wasn't sure where we were at. So in not seeing a draft bylaw, I knew this was going to be more of a discussion, which, you know, that's what they have to do. So I'm eager to see what that draft bylaw is actually going to look like. I hope that council will take into consideration that we are not Toronto. We are not as big as Toronto, but we also do need some kind of overseeing, because I do find that there are some nefarious short-term renters out there, or owners out there. So,
any idea why this is happening now, these regulations for these kinds of rentals?
Yeah, so for more on that, I spoke with Joanne Geniak. She's the councillor who put the motion forward today. She's also the one who got the ball rolling on this a couple of years ago. And so she says that the regulations are meant to address some of the concerns that community members have spoken about when these kinds of rentals pop up in their neighborhoods. She also said that, you know, council understands that there's a real deficit when it comes to rental properties in our city, and hopefully this can help address some of that as well. But what we don't know is just how short-term rentals are affecting housing in general. Administration was actually asked about that today. Are short-term rentals impacting rent prices? And they said that this was not part of their in-depth look for this report. It wasn't part of the directive that they got from council before when they were working on this report. We also don't know how many short-term rentals there are in Windsor either, because a lot of platforms aren't releasing these exact numbers, and they're citing privacy reasons for this. That's according to the city of Windsor. The last numbers that we have are from 2017. when there were 150 active hosts in our city. And Chris, I should mention that Airbnb actually just moments ago got back to me with a statement reacting to this news. And here's what they say. I quote, Windsor City Council, the draft bylaw that Windsor City Council has decided to pursue will have negative impacts on the visitor economy and local hosts. It is a regressive and redundant approach to regulating home sharing. So this draft bylaw, Chris, it won't be going to council for a few more months, probably closer to the new year. So a lot of this is still up in the air. So we'll have a better sense at that point how the regulations will impact our city.
Something to keep an eye on. Thanks for that, Katarina. The new contract between FCA and its Canadian workers has been ratified. Unifor says 78% of members who voted approved of the 3-year agreement. In Windsor, the union says the number is 86% among workers at the assembly plant. Now, the deal includes a promise of 2,000 jobs being added in Windsor as FCA invests $1.5 billion in the factory. The plan is to produce electric and hybrid vehicles here starting in 2024, which is when most of those jobs will kick in. The union says the contract also calls for 5% wage increases, a signing bonus of more than $7,000, and improved benefits. Unifor will now start talks with GM later this week. The family of a man that police say was murdered in Windsor wants your help. Jerome Allen was last seen nearly 2 years ago today in the west end of the city.
There are no words to express the pain, the hurt, and the suffering that we have been enduring for 2 years.
Allen's family is asking anyone with information to come forward. Police had previously made arrests in connection to his disappearance, but those charges were dropped. They also searched the home on City's West End for clues about what exactly happened to Allen. They have not found his body. Allen's mother described the last 2 years as a nightmare while pleading for the public's help.
Jerome was a loving son, brother, and father. He loved his family. He loved his children so much. Those children meant the world to him, and they miss him tremendously. His son will not have a dad to play ball with.
Here's some more information we have about Allen. Police say they had ties to Windsor and the GTA. Last seen on October 20th, 2018. That was early in the morning. The reward for information about his disappearance has been doubled. It's now at $10,000. The mayor of Essex made his first appearance in court today. Larry Snively has been charged with procuring ineligible voters during the 2018 Essex municipal election. The appearance was made over the telephone. Stacey Janzer was able to listen in.
This afternoon, lawyer for Larry Snively, Pat Ducharme, and Assistant Crown Attorney Brian White spoke via telephone at the court. It was the first appearance for the Essex mayor today. He was charged in February of 2020 under the Municipal Elections Act of Ontario. Now, those charges stem from proxy votes from the last municipal election. So let's go back to the October election in 2018. Larry Snively won by 117 votes. 2,261 ballots were cast in his favor, the runner-up receiving 2,144. Days later, the Essex OPP began investigating allegations of election fraud after the town of Essex received 2 official complaints of proxy ballots being signed without the consent of the electors during the municipal elections. Essex Councillor Sherry Bondi was the first to raise concerns about problems with proxy votes. At that time, she said she had heard from 4 different people about waiting in line to vote, only to be told they had already voted by proxy. CBC News obtained and examined 94 of the proxies filed. 31 had been incorrectly filed but were still signed off by the clerk. Issues range from missing names to missing signatures. In February 2020, OPP officially charged Larry Snively, the mayor of Essex, under the Municipal Elections Act of Ontario. Mayor Snively, in March of 2020, says he won't step down from his role as mayor, but planned to step aside from his role as the Local Police Services Board until the matter was settled. And in September 2020, Essex Town Council approved election reforms, including a complaints policy which outlines a process of filing election-related concerns, including what complaints are valid, who the concern will go to, and what the follow-up will look like. Lawyers in this case will return to court via teleconference on November 16th. That's when they'll decide the trial date. Stacey Janzer, CBC News, Windsor.
Restaurants in Windsor can keep these parklets in place until the end of the year. Businesses had a takedown deadline of November 1st, but that was extended by council today. They can stick around, but owners must agree not to sue the city if they're damaged by a snowplow. The head of the Downtown Windsor Business Improvement Association thinks this is excellent news. Transit Windsor will not be collecting fares on buses for another week. Executive Director Pat Delmore says that they still need more time to install protective barriers for drivers. Transit Windsor hasn't been collecting fares and has required passengers to both board and exit buses by the rear door for 7 months now. Delmore said that the different models of buses meant that each needed a different style of barrier, which contributed to the delay. The border with the United States will remain closed to all non-essential travel for at least another month. Public Safety Minister Bill Blair making that announcement today. The closure now runs until November 21st. He says the decision continues to be based on the best public health advice available. That closure has been in effect since late March. The House of Commons is set to hold an emergency debate about the lobster fishery conflict in Nova Scotia, a move that's backed by the NDP and some Liberal ministers. The federal government is under pressure to step in and help de-escalate growing tensions between commercial and Mi'kmaq fishermen in the region. Olivia Stefanovic reports.
Indigenous people have been let down by the police.
An admission by the Indigenous Services Minister after watching police seemingly stand by during weeks of clashes over the launch of the Sabaganegati's lobster fishery.
We've heard those concerns and we're working hard to resolve them.
The Public Safety Minister's condemnation was more guarded.
Well, this isn't a military operation. It is a peacekeeping operation.
Bill Blair defended his government's decision not to call in the military as requested by the band, but boost RCMP resources as called for by the province, after a Mi'kmaq lobster facility was set ablaze over the weekend.
What has occurred in the last week, the violence, the fires, the destruction of property, is disgusting. And it's not the Nova Scotia I know and love.
Nova Scotia's premier is urging Ottawa to define what constitutes legal harvesting in a moderate livelihood fishery, something the chief of Sabaganegati wants to see.
We should have done this a long time ago, but the government could have also worked on it a little bit harder back then.
And the broader community.
And as long as nobody comes out and clarifies exactly what it means, then this is going to continue. And as long as it continues, there's going to be some violence happening.
But the minister responsible says a broad definition is not coming.
I don't think any First Nation wants the federal government to have a top-down approach.
Instead, the government says a moderate livelihood needs to be negotiated with each band individually, an approach that has failed to resolve the conflict so far. Olivia Stefanovic, CBC News, Ottawa.
Back here in Windsor, Council wants the Rosewood Golf and Curling Club to reconsider their decision to cancel this year's curling season.
Sometimes there's a need to revisit the decision. There is a lot of new information available now that may not have been available then. Curling will look different this winter, and Curling Canada has laid out guidelines to follow. There has been strong support for curling both with curlers and with the general public.
About 65 curlers protested their club's decision earlier this month. At the time, the club's board said that reversing their decision was unlikely. Councillor Jim Morrison says that curling clubs in other municipalities are going ahead with the season. He wants the board to see how those clubs have been able to reopen safely. Now, the motion he put forward passed on a vote of 6-5. There are 3 members of the board that sit on Windsor City Council, including board chair Fred Francis. He voted against the motion. He says that they will revisit the topic as a board at their next meeting on October 30th. Runners did not have to cross the border to do the Detroit Marathon this year. Because of COVID-19, the run was forced to be held virtually. People could make their own routes to complete the required 42 kilometers, and we caught up with a pair of Windsor runners just as they were headed out.
This is what we do. This is race day. If the marathon was a go today, we'd be over in Detroit lined up ready to go. So we figured, why would we change that? I've been training Rose for the last 16 weeks. So we're here today at Sandpoint, 7 a.m. and we're going to kick off on our way to Bell River.
Let's go.
Well, I've been planning routes forever, and Rose knows I like our routes to be an adventure. So we twist and turn, and I figured, you know, why not end up somewhere different? We've not run to Bell River, so today it'll be a nice chance when we finish at the Bell River Marina just to finish somewhere cool. You're going to find them everywhere. There's going to be some in Windsor. There's going to be some out in the county. I know they've all got these super unique routes planned for themselves because, come on, when you're running 26.2 miles, you need to be creative with that route.
I think, you know, when you put your mind that you have to do the marathon, you got to be prepared, rain or shine.
Hopefully no rain today.
It's a mindset, right? Yeah. So the virtual thing, you gotta push yourself a little bit more, dig deeper, because now there's no crowd cheering you. You gotta cheer your own self, right?
From running to the water, canoeing, kayaking, paddleboarding, it's called the ultimate social distancing of sports. More on how the pandemic affected water sport businesses locally next.
I've always been active outdoors, but with COVID, the gym closed and I would go to the gym often. I just needed something else to do, and kayaking really fit the bill.
Now, this past weekend was one of the last for those getting out on the water. Canoes, kayaks, and paddleboards. Rental shop operators say that the pandemic gave them a boost, with people looking to get outside to try something new. Brett Fullen says he waited 7 weeks for his kayak to come in due to a high demand for the equipment. River Canard Canoe in LaSalle saw between 20 to 30% of an increase in business.
They needed something, they can be, we're outdoors, so this has always been here and it always will be here. And so they can get out here, they can explore, they can see nature, they can do all that, and they can kind of like get off the grid for a while. They can forget about all that stuff that they're dealing with, and and just kind of get back to basics, back to their roots, and have a good time.
Nobody's going on vacations this year. Everyone has a little bit of extra money saved up, and they're looking for something else to do. Kayaking is sort of the ultimate social distancing sport where you can go out with a group of people and still just keep your 6 feet apart easily.
Now, PLE Wings Nature Shop says that its season started off slowly. That's because the business was forced to close at first because of those province-wide pandemic restrictions. When they opened up, though, had to add additional courses just to keep up with demand. Joining us now for a live look of the weather is Colette Kennedy. Me and my dad spent a lot of time on the water kayaking this summer, but we have thrown those things away because outside is chilly now.
It is chillier now. It's usually spring and fall are like those seasons where we have so much of the up and down and up and down. I know we've had a little bit of it, but really this hasn't been so much of a roller coaster as fall normally is. Well, this week now it is. I'm here to tell you that now we are into the ups and downs of fall, what it's normally like, and we're sort of wrapping it all into 1 week. And I don't just mean the ups and downs of temperatures. We're going to see some of that. I mean the ups and downs, too, of like it's kind of system after system. You get a bit of a break, and then the next one comes in. So let me kind of tell you the story of what we're going to be seeing. We're starting off here just having a look at what's going on with your temperatures, and you can see all around we're just looking at single digits at the moment, and very little change in terms of their temperatures are going to drop tonight, but only by a few degrees. When you're already sitting at single digits like this, it can't go that much further for this time of year, really. We're not seeing it changing that much. So one system is departing, and we're in this little bit of a break. And we've got a system right now affecting the Midwest and back towards Chicago, some of the heavier rains that have been pushing through there. Well, that's right on our doorstep. So in the next couple of hours, that's going to be moving in. Now, what's sort of positive about this is that some of this heavier rain then, as it's coming in, is going to be moving in then through the overnight hours. So most of the heavier rain that we'll be seeing as this moves through comes tonight and then kind of tapering off in the overnight hours, so that by tomorrow morning, the rush hour, what rush hour we have, we'll be seeing that things will mostly be over with and drying out for us. But I can't say that all the cloud cover will be gone. So it moves through and we get into another bit of a break between systems, and then yet another one is going to be working its way through. So that one kind of comes through again then late on Tuesday into Wednesday, but again, mostly kind of through the overnight hours, and we get the breaks into most of the daytime hours. So we get some sunshine kind of coming back through midweek. But there's going to be this pattern carrying on through the whole week that by the time we get to the end of the week, we're going to see a real spike with a southerly flow in the temperatures for Friday. I'm going to show you that on the 5-day in a moment. I do just want to show you that how this kind of slides through in terms of the amounts of rainfall, not very significant. And this is me kind of putting the two systems together, the next two that are going to be moving through. It's not that it's a ton of rain that we'll be seeing at all. Overnight tonight, those readings, and again, drying out by morning. Tomorrow afternoon, if we can get some sun coming through, still not helping us out much, but getting into at least the double digits when we're talking about what we're looking at on the thermometer for the high temperature. Wednesday, then going up a little bit further, and again, it's not all day. We get some of the rain, and then we see the clearing out. Thursday, could even have a thunderstorm or two, some of the instability, by the way, on Wednesday coming through with that system. And then that's not the only day that could happen. We get the warm up, the temperatures going up and down. Friday, there's the spike that I'm talking about with that southerly flow. And again, once the cold front comes through on Friday, that's when we might also see some thunderstorms. And yes, Chris, colder air then back and behind that. So buckle up, okay? Everybody,
buckle up, folks.
Buckle up this week. This is your roller coaster ride.
I love it. Hey, we had some consistency for a long time. We were braced for this. You know, we are in the most southern part of Canada, but let's enjoy the ride here for a little bit.
We've been in training. Here you go.
Yeah, no, exactly. Thanks for this, Colette.
You're welcome.
What do we do about Halloween? Health officials have some ideas. We'll break that down next. No sugar is going to make this any sweeter, at least for kids living in modified Stage 2 locations in the province. Health officials have canceled traditional door-to-door trick-or-treating today for Toronto, Peel, and York region, but they've also issued some advice for the rest of the province. Natalie Collada has the details.
The pumpkins are out, the decorations up, costumes ready. But for millions of Ontario kids, traditional trick-or-treating is cancelled.
I really wanted it to happen, so yeah, I'm kind of disappointed that it's not happening.
The idea, says the Premier, is to keep away and keep safe.
We just can't have hundreds of kids showing up at your door if you live in a hotspot, especially in apartment buildings.
That means no traditional door-to-door trick-or-treating in Toronto, Peel, York, and Ottawa. So what about those candy shoots or leaving a bowl outside your door? Ontario's top doctor says it's just too risky in hot zones.
And I know that people say they have ideas and creative thoughts,
The trouble is, how is that going to happen consistently everywhere in every place?
Still,
and rather than just pulling the plug and canceling lots of things, I think there are some creative ways we can make things safer. Halloween's one of them.
when it comes to Halloween, infectious disease specialist Dr. Isaac Bogosh says it shouldn't be too tough to do safely.
We should be listening to the public health guidelines. It's as simple as that. When we look at the science and the data that might be driving it, I think it's pretty clear that it's an outdoor environment, it's masked, it's within a family unit, it's about as safe as it gets.
The province suggests instead of going door to door in hot zones to celebrate by carving pumpkins, dressing up, or hosting candy treasure hunts at home. Salma Al Yamani is planning a park party.
In the park, we're gonna do a chase for candy, and we're gonna have like stickers, we're gonna have stamps.
Trick-or-treating in other areas of the province can still go on, physically distanced and with proper masks. Natalie Collada, CBC News, Toronto.
Some pretty interesting pumpkins during this pandemic. It's 6:29 p.m. and that's it for CBC Windsor News. Don't forget, for news anytime, you can go to our website, cbc.ca/Windsor. We're on social media too. You can check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Power and Politics is up next. We're going to join that already in progress. Thanks for watching. Have yourselves a wonderful night.